Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We've got round two of the April 23rd Egman tournament. We've got red-yellow Sabo versus black-blue Sakazuki. Our opponent's going first and opening up with the Dashiki to search top five, getting the Great Eruption to hand. And they're going to use their leader effect to filter a little more, get the Hina in trash to draw a card, and then we get to play the game. So red-yellow Sabo feels pretty good into Sakazuki. Generally, they're a 4-life leader, and we kind of have rush and can hide our bodies in our life, so can usually pick and choose what Sakazuki's allowed to remove, which generally feels good. But Sakazuki can just get so much card advantage that no matchup against them can truly be all the way favored. So we just play down the Garb, added the 5-drop Luffy to our hand. He's always comes in handy in all of these 4-life leader matchups, or anyone with a lot of blockers. Opponent's going to get a brand new here, top 3. They get to add the Suru, setting up a Helmeppo in trash. And 6 of life with their remaining Dawn, which we'll just freely take here. We want to get cards early so that we can have our combos, such as Big Ace and Little Ace, or Big Luffy and Little Luffy, so that we can pull them out of our life and buff our leader. So we're on 4 Dawn here, and there's really not all that much to do on 4 Dawn against Sakazuki, unfortunately, because we can't play anything and hide in our life at the same time. And so if it doesn't have Rush, it's just going to be just sent to the bottom of the deck or KO'd without getting any value whatsoever. So in this case, just use the Garp, get some value out of him, get a little bit of additional pressure. It's better than a 9k because he got a card out of his hand as well as giving him the life. And now our opponent's on 5 Dawn. He's just going to decide to play a Sabo down because we are a red deck, and Sabo is very good. Draw 2 and set up a Lucci and a Vergo, 2k in trash. So we've got Helmeppo, Lucci in trash now. And just a nice 5k swing coming into our life. And we'll just take that as well, because that'll put us down to 2 life. Going to our 6 Dawn turn now, and now that we're at 2 life, we can probably do our prototypical 6 Dawn turn if we have it in that big hand of ours, just going 6 with lead to our opponent's leader, and then just playing 5 cost ace, who will gain rush due to our life total. Opponent takes the 6, and he chooses to counter out of the 7 with a Sabo and a 2k, and then we hide the ace on our life because Sakazuki will just completely destroy him, and we want to at least get some value out of him. So at least this way, he's in a little extra defense. Got our opponent coming up on 7 Dawn here. 7 Dawn's always an interesting turn for Sakazuki since they're not quite a Gecko Moria. And it's not really enough Dawn to play 2 bodies, so they often will end up putting some Dawn somewhere, like here, 6 at life. Now here we are going to end up countering this for 2 1Ks, which may very well be a misplay. Our thought process is we want to really pull this ace down off of our life next turn with the little ace in our hand. But to be completely honest, it may not have been worth it. We maybe could have just taken the ace to our hand, played him, put him in life, propped him back down, and not worried so much about playing a second body to get additional pressure. I suppose the idea was we wanted to be a 7k leader at 3 life as opposed to a 7k leader at 2 life, but that did cost us 2 1Ks and revealing to him the position of our hand. So we're just getting our next turn set up here. 8 Dawn on Sabo is usually relatively simple if you have to play out of your hand, but if you already have something in life, you get to pop off just a little bit extra. So play the little ace first, bringing down the big ace off our life and buffing our leader. And we're going to see a little bit of a misstep here, because I'm on 8 Dawn. I just tapped 2 for baby ace. I have 6 Dawn left. we're not going to tap 6 for the 5-drop Luffy and then use our leader ability without any Dawn under our lead. Now, you should be able to understand what my brain is. I've planned this turn out. We know we have enough Dawn to do it, but my hand just physically turned the Dawn that should be under Sabo right now. But I do have the Dawn. It does technically exist in the legally accounted for game state. That Dawn should be standing right now. So, and my opponent did take the 7. So as far as I'm concerned, this didn't affect the game state, though technically that was incorrect. We should not have been able to use the ability without the Dawn under him, even though it was correct, should be standing active in our cost area. We don't play Radical Beam, so there wouldn't be any advantage there. But we just didn't notice, looks like. Just kind of had the whole turn planned out and just kind of did it all without realizing, oh, there's no Dawn here. Where does Dawn go? Our opponent's on their 9 Dawn turns, so probably going to see the first Moria come on down if they so choose to. If they can remove the Luffy while doing so, that is. Removing the Luffy is absolutely essential with my opponent at 1 life, because Luffy can penetrate blockers. Just ignore them. So if my opponent doesn't feel like they can remove the Luffy with the Moria, then maybe they'll do something else. But we're officially not playing Moria this turn. Getting a brand new down. My opponent's going to add the Amina Muraku no. And my opponent adds Amina Muraku no. This throws me off just a little bit here. If I'd taken a closer look at what they had a choice to add here, I would have realized that they only had the irrelevant Ice Age to add, so they had to add Amma, but we kind of assume that Amma's coming and not Houndblaze, and so we assume this is the only swing we're taking this turn. And that's important because we did have an opportunity to go to 1 life here, and we do have a Maru in our hand. So there's going to be 7k coming across the table into our 7k leader. And we're just thinking on if we want to counter this or not. There are many benefits to going down to 2 life. You're activating your rush, yada yada, with the yellow ace. But we also have a rush body in hand already. And we feel like we want to get the benefit out of being a 7k leader and defend a 7k swing for 1 card. But that doesn't mean it's always correct to get that value. So we're going to counter out a Nekomamushi. And our opponent is a little confused as to how we're a 7k. So we're pulling out the baby ace to show them. So Brandon's going to get buffed, which we definitely should have seen coming because our opponent has not played a single Houndblaze yet. And Sakazuki has Houndblazes in their hand at all times. So that absolutely should have been foresawn. And now we were wishing we'd taken the first one, just so we could be set up to maybe get some serious cards out of hand here. So we also just countered out Garp for 1k counter. That Garp could maybe have been used to try to find a baby ace. We do have ace on our life set up perfectly, and if we took him off, we would go down to 2 life as a 7k leader. When our opponent has nothing but searchers, it'd be incredibly safe. Might have been better to take the life there and make a gamble. Or I suppose we'd be at a 1 life, but still, as a 7k leader. Our reasoning for defending the ace being we still have a rush swinger next turn with Miss Luffy. And we're just going to heal him onto life so he doesn't get removed. Though this does now put us in a position where our opponent has to give us permission to use our own Luffy. My opponent's definitely feeling the pressure here, just with the Luffy on the top life, but with the Luffy on the life, it's also relieved a little bit of pressure. Just even though he would have the tools to remove it, he doesn't necessarily have to spend any Dawn removing it. So he can spend all that Dawn now getting cards, blockering up, and just doing all of those things he needs to do in order to make sure that he can eventually survive an unblockable Luffy swing. He's sort of in his own little mini game now. Get enough cards before I give my opponent back the Luffy. Just got a 2K report from my opponent, and he has 4 2Ks in that ever-growing trash of his. That would be great news into any deck but Sakazuki. Our opponent just, he's in the think tank a little bit, which makes perfect sense. He's staring down a deck that just keeps rushing him down. He's at 0 life. But we're going to play the Gecko Mori here to start adding cards, which makes sense. Get a Borsalino, get a brand new up. Borsalino to help fend off my incoming 15K from leader. And brand new to start adding some counter. And look, we get some counter. Beautiful. A 5 cost 2K Virgo. And my opponent is almost certainly not going to want to give me the Luffy. So we're probably not going to see any swings come into life whatsoever. But he does still have 2 Dawn to spend. So he's at least put the stage down. Makes sense. Pass over to us. Did we draw a rush card is pretty much what we're going to be asking ourselves for the rest of the game, the start of every turn. We've sort of allowed ourselves to run a little bit out of gas, or at the very least put all of the gas out of the tank and into a bottle to the side. So 10 to life, and our opponent just gets rid of the Borsalino, make sure our opponent can't accrue blockers. And then we just play the ace. He does not have rush, our life total is too high, and we know he's going to get removed, so we just kind of put him in our life. We're dealing with Sakazuki at 7 cards in hand right now, so yeah, we just know anything we put down is going to be removed, even if they have to play a blocker as well. It's just far too free with stage Sakazuki. All he has to do is Moria, Rebecca, Hina. He can get a brand new. He can even get cards while he's doing that. So, and then just plays 2 cost event. So we got another Moria coming down. Now the downside, of course, not giving him anything to remove is the Morias can focus solely on adding cards that are for a counter. Whereas this Rebecca might have to add a Hina if it wasn't already in hand. So he's going to be seeing what brand new gets him off the top. Brand new adds him the Kusan. And we're probably going to fish out a Virgo with that Rebecca. And our opponent has a very strong hand now, looking like 8 or 9 cards. So we're finally going to start swinging into me. Opponent goes 5 to life here. They have a pretty impressive board, and we don't want to go too low. So we are considering countering out. I believe at this point I'm contemplating what are the odds of me just drawing a Luffy or a means to get a Luffy, such as 2-drop Luffy. Though if we wanted to do that, we maybe shouldn't have countered out the Garp earlier. If we wanted to have more ways to get Luffys. So we are deciding to take the 5 cost Luffy, and so we're going to immediately be given the ace as well by the Moria swing. So we're probably just going to have a repeat of the previous turn here, except this time with Rush Luffy. Just a little bit of Dawn on leader, play something down, and put it in life. But this time we can at least get a swing out. We know that we're not going to kill him this turn. He's added all the counter, and he gave us the Luffy, but we can't allow him to just add counter all day. We have to at least cut his hand down to size. So we're just making sure it's the play, and it is. So we're just going to probably put a Dawn under our leader here, just because we do have to have that there so we can move the character. So our opponent will just block, because he knows that the Luffy will be entirely out of his hand. He doesn't want to give us anything else out of there. And Luffy's just going to be coming in for 10. And I even tell my opponent, just give me 3 of those 2Ks you just took to your hand. So a beautiful triple set of Virgos. And we have to put Luffy in our life, because we're just hoping to get our Luffy swing off this game and catch him down lacking with only maybe counter enough to go to 10 or 11. The unfortunate side effect of all of our healing and stalling up to 5 life, though, is that our opponent also knows 2 cards in our hand. We have 2 5-cost aces. So our 4 cards in hand is not impressive, or 5 cards in hand is not really impressive at all. Our opponent knows it's actually 3. Opponent's just a little bit in the think tank. They're not really sure if this is the moment to go for it, or if they want to just continue to build the board. Going to cycle out a useless Rob Lucci. We haven't really given them anything to destroy all game save a single Luffy, so that makes perfect sense. He's also 0 counter. And our win condition at this point is essentially piercing Luffy's swing, so you're going to need all the counter you can get. Opponent going through his trash, which is essentially or rapidly becoming his deck at this point. Going to see 5k come across the table. Just nice, easy, and efficient, like he's been doing all game, just checking my hand 1k at a time. Now this 5k swing is a little scary, so we're 100% going to counter for 2 just because of the follow-up swing potential. Those 2 Gecko Morias just loom so ominously since our opponent knows the true size of our hand, and he now knows with near certainty, unless we have 2 0-cost events, that, like, for example, we could not counter a Moria swing right now. And we could not counter a Moria swing after that Luffy's added to hand either, because he no 3 confirmed bricks in our hand. So our opponent has a lot of knowledge in our hand right now, and that's why this brand new swing is so painful. Because right now, if I do not counter this brand new swing, my opponent knows I definitely cannot counter the next 2 9s, or at least the next 9. And so that's a 9, and if that card is not a 2k counter, because I can only counter 3k right now in my hand. I have a 0 cost and a bunch of bricks, a Maru and some rushers. So we're actually going to a Maru ace out of that 5k, which is possibly a misplay because my opponent might not have gone for it. Yes, the 8 Dawn's clearly Moria, but the 8 Dawn could also be 11k brand new, which would have put me away here. Because 9k would have gotten the Luffy, and the next 9k would have gotten my life. I remember that's not a 2k, but it's probably better here to try some form of mind games here and just not counter it and see what he does. I am probably weakest in the bluffing aspect of this game, but just felt like my opponent had a very good read on what was actually in my hand, and those felt like lethal test swings to me. So we're not going to play Moria, we're actually going to play Kuzan and Borsalino. Kuzan drawing him a card, Borsalino protecting him for the next turn. Now, had we been able to actually go down to 1 life here and go to our opponent to swing into us and somehow been able to counter out of the last swing, we probably could have just won the game if they'd only been able to play down a single Borsalino. Say they'd held 4 down back, because we do have a Maru in our hand. So possibly a mistake, but as it stands now, we're stuck just doing 10k across the table into our opponent. Just got to make them use that Borsalino. And we're just going to heal up again because we realize at this point we're probably not winning except by attrition, just countering out of our opponent deciding to finally go for it and hitting them on the crackback. We know we're going to get the tools to do it out of our life, so the point now is just survival. We're really just hoping on the counter of our bottom lives. Opponent getting in the cycle. Trash to Hina. Gonna see another 5k come across the table, and we did find that Nekomamushi on the draw last turn, so we got to counter, and we don't die this turn. So we wanted to counter that immediately, because if we take very scary math we have. Another Gecko Moria coming down. Just saw it jump around a bit because we had the, coming to the end of time, we had the judge and stream folks jump on in. Just let him know that we're getting close to time, so he's moving a little bit quicker now. Not that he was moving slowly before. He's having to think through it, moves a lot more than I am. So we're going to use the Moria to pull up the Rebecca and the brand new. And the Rebecca adds him a 2k, and the brand new added him a card. My opponent is now down to a scant 4 cards in deck, it looks like. Passing over to us, we did not draw a rush card, so we're just refreshing it. 10k, and we're just going to shortcut the ace there, put it right on life with leader skill, and pass it on over to our opponent with 3 giant Gecko Morias. Now, we're still feeling relatively okay because we've been doing the math on this, and we don't think Branu can get quite high enough. We think we could possibly counter the swing he has to do with him just because it's 4 on lead for 9, and he has 6 for Branu, so it might be all 9s, and we're pretty confident we can counter a single 9 with what we're going to get out of our life. So we're going to get the first 9, cannot stop. Our current hand is 0 cost and another card. No 2-card hand can stop a 9. And our opponent knows since we just took a brick, unless we have a counter with our 0 cost, we can't counter the next one either. So still can't counter 9. And now our opponent has the Hound Blaze and the Hound Blaze to make brand new 9k for 4 Dawn. Still cannot counter a 9. We get a 1k counter to our hand. So we can go up to 9 now. Exactly. Our opponent now is debating between 10-10 and 9-11. If our opponent does 10-10, we win the game. If they do 9-11, we lose. Opponent is down to 2 cards in the deck. They just checked for a Hound Blaze. And our opponent is deciding to commit to the 9k, 11k line, and we cannot counter a 9, so we have to take an 11k coming across to finish the game because we can unfortunately only go up to 11 with the 2k we grabbed off the end of our life. So Sakazuki is victorious here over the Revolutionary Army. Our opponent played that match extremely well, especially considering this was their first time playing into Red-Yellow Sabo. Though I will say we got them very close. We lost by 1k counter and with 2 cards in their deck. I'd love to hear everyone's thoughts down below on what we could have possibly done better. Considering it was so close, there absolutely was something we could have done to turn this game into our favor, without question. I hope everyone enjoyed the video. I hope you all be back for round 3, and everyone take it easy. Goodbye.